In the previous video, we classified economics into microeconomics, macroeconomics, and econometrics. We also mentioned that economics can be further divided into theoretical economics and empirical economics. This time, we will explore economics by dividing it into different schools of thought. Each school has its own theories and arguments, and each pursues its own goals. Understanding how these schools are divided is not only crucial for systematically understanding economics, but it also greatly aids in comprehending the broader field of economics. Perhaps by knowing what these schools advocate, you might even earn the reputation of being knowledgeable in economics. Let's first look at what schools exist. There are the Neoclassical school, the Marxian school, the Keynesian school, the Austrian school, institutional economics, behavioral economics, and more. We will examine each one by one, and also delve deeper into the debates and conflicts between these major schools, exploring how they oppose each other. First, there is the classical school. The classical school forms the foundation of economics, much like classical music is the foundation of music. In economics, the classical school is the most fundamental. We refer to it as the classical school, neoclassical school, or classical economics. To explain the difference between the classical and neoclassical schools, the neoclassical school can be seen as a reinterpretation of classical theories using mathematical and computational techniques. Therefore, understanding the classical school naturally leads to understanding the neoclassical school. Both the classical and neoclassical schools assume that humans are rational beings. Economics cannot exist without assumptions because humans cannot be fully expressed through a single equation. Thus, some assumptions are necessary to mathematically describe human behavior. One assumption made by the neoclassical school is that humans are rational. Here, rationality means being logical and acting in a way that maximizes one's own interests. This raises the question, what is a rational human? In economics, a rational human is one who makes optimal decisions based on given information. However, this is an idealized concept rarely found in reality. Have you ever encountered such a perfectly rational human in your life? I haven't. There is no human who always makes the best decision based on the information available. Economics softens this condition by approaching the concept of a rational human more realistically. A rational human is not someone who makes perfect decisions, but rather someone who has consistent preferences and makes choices based on those preferences. For example, if someone prefers apples to bananas and bananas to strawberries, they should prefer apples to strawberries. This consistency in preferences is the core of a rational human, a trait most people possess. Based on this assumption of rational humans, the neoclassical school explains market efficiency. When rational humans make optimal choices, the market operates efficiently, achieving a balance between supply and demand. This aligns with Adam Smith's concept of the invisible hand. Adam Smith argued that even if humans act selfishly, the market mechanism can maximize the overall benefit to society. In other words, when individuals act to maximize their own interests, the result is an increase in societal utility, leading to a better world. From this perspective, individual selfish actions can be seen as essential for the progress of society as a whole. What Adam Smith advocated was the concept of the invisible hand. He believed that even if humans act selfishly, the market mechanism could maximize societal benefits. When each economic agent acts to maximize their own profit, the result is that society as a whole reaches an optimal state. This became the foundation of the neoclassical school, which emphasizes market efficiency. Another important figure is Alfred Marshall, an economist who developed the concepts of supply and demand curves and the theory of marginal utility. He is one of the key figures who laid the groundwork for modern economics. Many of the concepts we learn in high school or university economics are derived from Marshall's marginalist thinking. For example, terms like marginal utility and marginal cost originate from his theories. These concepts appear repeatedly throughout microeconomics and form the core of economic theory. Additionally, Leon Walras established the general equilibrium theory, making significant contributions to explaining the overall balance of markets. Vilfredo Pareto also played a crucial role in defining economic efficiency through the concept of Pareto optimality. These economists all made substantial contributions to the neoclassical school. On the other hand, Marxian economics takes a different approach. Marx sought to explain the contradictions of capitalism based on the social conditions of his time. He analyzed capitalist society by dividing it into capitalists and workers. arguing that in the industrialized society of his era, workers were being exploited by capitalists. Marx lived during the Industrial Revolution, a time when factory-based industries were developing, and workers were treated like machines, receiving only minimal wages while capitalists took the majority of the profits. Marx predicted that this system would eventually collapse. Marx's theory explains why workers could only receive wages at the subsistence level. From the neoclassical perspective, workers' wages are determined by their marginal productivity. In other words, workers cannot demand higher wages because they have no alternatives. If they don't work, they cannot sustain their livelihoods, so they have no choice but to accept even the lowest wages. This is still true in modern society. Workers with specialized skills can earn higher wages, while those without such skills are often stuck at the minimum wage level. Marx viewed this system as unsustainable. He predicted that capitalism would eventually collapse due to its internal contradictions, but his theory remained largely speculative and was later adapted and transformed by others who borrowed his ideas. Figures like Lenin, for instance, used Marx's theories to ignite socialist revolutions and seize power. However, Marx himself rarely provided a concrete blueprint for a communist or socialist system. His theories primarily focused on critiquing the contradictions of capitalism rather than offering a detailed vision of an ideal future society. In conclusion, while Marx's theories sharply identified the contradictions within capitalism, the socialist and communist systems that were implemented based on his ideas often diverged significantly from his original intent. This demonstrates that Marx's theories were not merely economic analyses, but were also used as tools for political and social transformation. Marx's economic analysis was incisive, but his era lacked some of the concepts that are taken for granted in modern economics. Specifically, ideas such as investment, technological innovation, and productivity were not fully developed or understood at the time. In modern economics, it is widely accepted that capital is invested, particularly in technology, to increase productivity. The advancement of technology enhances overall societal productivity, driving economic growth, a concept that is now intuitive. However, in Marx's time, these ideas were not yet firmly established, which limited his ability to fully explain the economic realities of his era. Marx argued that capitalists monopolized the surplus value extracted from workers. He believed that the labor workers invested created more value than the wages paid by capitalists, and he defined this difference as surplus value. This surplus value, he claimed, was ultimately monopolized by capitalists, leading to intensified class conflict. Marx predicted that this structure would eventually lead to the collapse of capitalism. However, modern economics considers that a significant portion of this surplus value is channeled into investment, which fuels technological development and productivity improvements. Capitalists do not merely monopolize surplus value, they reinvest it to achieve technological innovation, increase productivity, and ultimately drive overall economic growth. If capitalists fail to make such investments, their businesses risk falling behind in competition and facing bankruptcy. Through this process, workers also gain opportunities to earn higher wages as technology and productivity improve. The economist who first systematically explained the importance of technological innovation and productivity growth was Joseph Schumpeter. Schumpeter introduced the concept of creative destruction, emphasizing that technological innovation is the core driver of economic growth. He explained that as entrepreneurs develop new technologies and enhance productivity, outdated technologies and industrial structures are destroyed, giving rise to new economic value. Unlike Marx's theory of surplus value, Schumpeter's theory highlights the dynamism of capitalism and the critical role of innovation. In conclusion, while Marx's theories sharply critiqued the economic contradictions of his time, modern economics emphasizes the role of investment, technological innovation, and productivity as key drivers of economic growth. Schumpeter's theory exemplifies this modern perspective, offering a different view of capitalism's vitality compared to Marx's theories. Subscribe channel and click like. That makes you smart.